to him. I just want to ask members of council. Oh, we're back in session. I just like to get some advice from councillors. The Auditor General's here. Is the wish of council that we go to the audit committee first? No? Okay, did we want to go on camera now then? Okay. Councillor Myers, if you want to go on camera, can you let the clerk know? Councillor Fletcher, you have a quick release?
I do. It's actually, it's just to, sorry, on the audit, to send that item AU 10.9 to the Infrastructure and Environment Committee on utility cuts, please.
So Councillor Fletcher is recommending for AU 10.9 utility construction to Infrastructure Committee. On favor? Oh, just a sec. Yeah. AU 10.9. So then we just have one outstanding item, and Councillor Myers, if you want to go on camera, you can let us know.
And then I'm just waiting on staff. Should we get to it tonight? I do have a planning meeting that I'm going to leave for at some point, Speaker.
Okay, hold on. Let's deal with this one first.
Can I just tell you first, in case I've left?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
EC 24.7, creating a small business-friendly approach to licensing and permitting. I'm waiting on a motion from staff, so I just ask that that be held into tomorrow, should you get to it tonight, please.
Okay, that's fine. So on the AU 10.9, I refer to Infrastructure Committee. Okay, on favor? Carried. No, but that's on another item, Councillor Perks.
Yeah, we're good.
So Councillor Myers wants to go in camera on AU 10.1. Do we have any other quick releases while we're waiting? No? There's no more. Members, we're not ready to go on camera, so we'll go to the next item, which is EC 24.1 Canada-wide early learning and childcare expansion. Councillor Bravo, you held the item down. Do you have questions? You don't? Does anybody have any questions for the Canada-wide early learning and childcare? No questions? Okay.
Councillor Nunziata, Madam Speaker, it's Councillor Candeville. I have a motion which I've shared with staff and I believe advance circulated.
Hold on, who's speaking? Oh, Councillor Candeville? I don't see you. There's no question, so Councillor Bravo, do you want to speak? Okay, Councillor Bravo to speak. Oh, you're going to go last? Okay. Councillor Morley to speak.
Madam Speaker, I'll keep it brief at this late hour, but just wanted to stand to underscore that this report gives an update on how Toronto's rolling out the Canada-wide early learning and child care systems as of mid-2025, with about 88% of licensed childcare centres and home agencies having joined. It also talks about a new cost-based funding model starting in 2025 and points out that the city will need more long-term support from the provincial and federal governments to keep expanding access and affordability. We hear all the time in my ward about how early people need to get onto a wait list to get to a daycare. It's as soon as you find out you're pregnant, and you're often still waiting after your child's ready to start daycare. Also, while this report is, and this program rather, is great, and we want to see it everywhere, places like my ward in Etobicoke Lakeshore are still childcare deserts with very, very long wait lists. There just isn't enough spots nor enough infrastructure. We need more funding and more centers, because in wards like mine, parents continue to be stuck for far too long. So look forward to good work from our Children's Services team to continue to find a path to implementation where more families can benefit. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mayor Chow.
I have a motion.
Madam Speaker, if you could add me to the list. Unfortunately,
Okay,
CMD is not working for me.
Okay, we'll add you to the list.
There's a motion that I would like to move, that we direct the General Manager of Children's Services to identify areas of inequity and guide future planning for childcare growth and expansion by applying an additional neighborhood level analysis to the directed growth plan. Okay? And this is to address the need, especially in area that have, we call it childcare desert, i.e. places where there is hardly any childcare services. We know that childcare is very much needed. Affordable childcare is very much needed. It used to be so expensive that it's more than your mortgage. And it's something like $23,000, $25,000 a year for an infant and toddler. I told my daughter, long time ago, the minute she told me, oh, I'm pregnant, I thought, well, okay, congratulations, lots of hugs. Have you put your name on the child care waiting list yet? Because the wait list is so long. And we need more space, we need a lot more services, but right now we mostly prioritize childcare growth by looking at the ward level, which is important, but it needs to be fine-tuned, not just in the ward level, but also in the neighborhood area, because that's how people relate. They don't think, oh, I'm in ward, whatever, Agincourt. They think, this is my neighborhood, this is the area. So I think it's really important that we do the kind of analysis that are as local as possible. We've seen in recent research, the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, that within single wards, different neighborhoods have different needs. So we have an opportunity to focus closely on what are the needs in the neighborhood area In the last few years, we've done good work. We've approved over 4,800 new spaces, well, 4,881 in fact. It's a 5%. This is since the fall of 2023. It's not enough, but we can do more. And one of what I've been talking about childcare since I was a school trustee a long time ago. And as a children's advocate here in Toronto, and then as a member of parliament, I was the early childhood education and childcare critic. So it was very delightful for me after 3 or 4 decades of advocacy and work, both at the local level and in the federal level, that we finally had a universal, high quality, affordable childcare program. And at that time, it was, I believe it was 2022. And it was a game changer. It was very, very important. At that time, we were looking at a 5-year expansion plan starting in May 2023 of 18,000 spaces. And unfortunately, and Councillor Rachel Shanos-Lynn will remember this, because she and I were working together to have the childcare built inside the school. And at that time, the early childhood education, that system was that the school would have the capital project, the grant, to build it into the local school. And there were a whole group of schools that are ready to go. And we were pushing the province of Ontario at the time to say, please, we need to build these schools, build the childcare centers right in the school. The school boards were ready to do it. They just need a bit more funding. And unfortunately, that whole program got canceled. And it was a very sad day. The City of Toronto don't have the fiscal capacity to step up. And what we need ultimately is to pay childcare workers a bit more so that we can retain them, because right now it's hard to recruit and hard to retain because we're not paying them enough. And that's not ourselves, but it's the entire provincial and the federal program. And we need more capital dollars to build the childcare center. So let us do the analysis by neighborhood, and let us continue to work with the federal and provincial government to build more childcare centers and provide more spaces for our children.
Thank you. Mayor Chow, do you mind taking the, I just wanted to say something. Okay. Yes, the comments that were made by the mayor and other members of council, which I do support. You know, a lot of us are not privileged, and you know, when our kids are growing up, we have parents that watch our kids, right? Yeah, so we're not privileged like that. But I remember 51 years ago, I'm old. When my son went to daycare, I was actually paying, I think it was 25 or 30 cents a day. That's a long time ago, right? So now, I mean, things have changed over the years, and there's a lot of families out there that don't have parents that can watch their kids, right? Grandmothers or grandfathers. And so I do support the report. But I also want to say the good news, the mayor and I on Monday is opening a daycare center in my ward, which we've been working on for a few years now. And it is one of the biggest daycare centers in Toronto. It's 98 spaces. It's on Western Road in Mount Dennis, and the first net zero daycare. So I'm very proud of opening that daycare center on Monday. And the mayor will be there. We'll be doing the ribbon cutting. So thank you. Yeah, Mount Dennis.
Councillor Carnival.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, there's a motion that I have that seeks to build capacity with providers, especially particularly in areas that are in need or considered high needs, inequity neighborhoods where we want to grow childcare capacity, and we see the correlation, and we know the correlation between higher SES neighborhoods and childcare supports vis-a-vis city supports, whether it's subsidy or facility. And this motion is to help grow the capacity of providers within our city. I think it's both capital dollars as well as operational capacity. And this motion seeks for staff to grow those strategies and capacity building and to report back in July 26 as part of the progress update for our early years service plan. And I'd like to thank the work done by city staff and growing it. It is a partnership, especially in neighborhoods and communities that are in need of childcare. Like my own, Councillor Morley spoke to her neighborhood as well. So we need to address this inequity, both obviously with federal and provincial partners, but also internally as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the last speaker, Councillor Bravo.
I have a motion. I'm moving on behalf of Councillor Crisanti to start with. And it's really about conducting an analysis of barriers to expanding and accessing licensed childcare in high priority wards identified in the directed growth plan. And that the report come in the second quarter of 2026. I think that we're all speaking with one voice here, which is a wonderful thing to see. Everyone is in agreement that childcare is important social infrastructure, and I appreciate the mayor outlining the progress that has been made, both by this council under her leadership and also by staff. We have a staff plan that is and staff attention to making sure that equity and that ensuring that we're sharing in the opportunity of childcare is a key part of what the city is doing, the city is leading. What's before you is that we need the provincial and federal support to have both sustained operating and capital dollars so that we can effectively expand the Canada-wide early learning and childcare and meet those targets. The prioritization of future capital investments are absolutely crucial, and that we are focusing already in the report in high inequity areas, and that the partnership with not-for-profit organizations who can take on this important task is absolutely essential. We have so far had many of our efforts hampered by the provincial government's rules around capital that made it impossible to have school-based expansion of childcare, which is a really important goal that we had. Nevertheless, we're persisting and moving ahead. I also want to say that Councillor Candeville's motion and Councillor Crisanti's motions are very much in the spirit of the report. And if you read it very carefully, you'd see that we're already planning to do this work. But it's never over the top, I think, to really identify what the barriers to expansion are. And I am very pleased to hear that it sounds like in this room we're behind this work, and I want to thank Children's Services. I also, in closing, will say that I created in that Economic and Community Development Committee, I moved and we adopted the creation of a childcare roundtable, which brings together voices of childcare providers, organizations that are very much in areas that are excluded and structurally from having the access to childcare that's needed. We have academics, we have a wonderful array of groups. The next childcare roundtable is on Tuesday, and it actually is going to go deeper into the questions that are here before you, and that's something that I think is wonderful. And the good news around cost, I mean, Councillor Nunziata talked about cents a day or whatever that number was. When my children were small, there was a time when I paid $50 a day per child. At the time, infant care was $70 a day. 3 kids, I only worked to pay for my childcare. And so you think about, why it took so long for some of us to get out of the financial hole. It's because I had 3 kids. And my husband and I, we went shoulder to shoulder on this, but it would have meant abandoning my career altogether, and my children would not have arrived at school ready to learn. So finally, I just want to say, this is such a massive investment in early identification of challenges, which is done at childcare centers. Do you need glasses? Do you need a hearing test? This is a front line of screening. Every dollar that goes into childcare pays off in $5, $6 in savings, $7 in savings down the road. What a wonderful investment, and we need the other orders of government to be with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if we can put the motions on the screen. Motion by Mayor Chow. On favor? Opposed, if any, carried. Next motion. By Councillor Candeval. On favor? Opposed, if any, carried. Motion by Councillor Bravo on behalf of Councillor Crisanti. On favor? Opposed, if any, carried. Item is amended. On favor? Carried. Okay, so it's my understanding as far as the auditor's report, AU 10.1, Councillor Myers has indicated he doesn't have to go in camera, so we'll deal with AU 10.1 for the audit. And if you have questions, if you can please put your name on the screen. Anybody have any questions? Councillor Myers. Okay, let's just give a minute for them to set up. Okay, you ready? Okay, Councillor Myers.
Thank you. So, Madam Auditor, as it relates to the Smart Track program, as we heard this morning, the costs of this program are approximately $878 million. Would it be of public concern if a significant amount of that money was actually spent designing stations that were never built?
So through you, Speaker, my understanding is that the design stage those costs were approved by council, and in terms of the construction, that is being done by Metrolinx, a provincial agency, and my mandate does not extend to the province, and my understanding is that there's not an audit clause in the agreement between the city and Metrolinx, so I don't think I would be able to audit it within my mandate.
I'm only talking about the money that the City of Toronto spent. Not any money that the province or the federal government spent. This is money that the City of Toronto spent designing Smart Track Station. And a significant percentage of that money was spent designing stations that the city then had no money to build. Do you think that is a matter of public concern and that should require an audit?
So through you, Chair, I can consider it, but as I stated, the amounts that were spent were approved by council to be spent.
Right, but I've seen audits, for example, with the modular housing, that was approved by council, and then you audit it because that modular housing was never actually installed. And you audit it to see what had happened to make sure that that would never happen again. Is that correct? On Cummer?
We did do an audit of modular housing.
Correct. And all of those funds were approved by council, correct?
I'm not sure it was quite as clear cut. I'd have to just double check on that.
Okay. Can you pause my time then? while you find the answer? Anyway, well, it's actually, no, sorry, I'll just keep going.
Okay.
This same department is now charged with delivering 2 other projects, Waterfront East LRT at $2.67 billion and Eglinton East LRT at $4.65 billion. I think you would agree those are significant amounts of money.
Definitely.
These are all City of Toronto projects. Do you not have concerns if this same department spent a considerable amount of money at their direction, at the direction of council, based on their recommendations, we don't actually know, designing stations that there was actually no money to build? Given that this same department, these same practices, these same personnel are now going to be undertaking these 2 other projects at a much larger budget.
So through the chair, I can consider an audit, but I would have to think about what value we could add from the audit perspective.
Do you not think there would be value to actually understanding how this occurred to prevent this from happening again?
It's possible. I'd need to look into it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are there any further questions on the item? Councillor Holiday.
I just wanted to follow on Councillor Myers' line of questioning because it raises an intriguing question. Is the understanding of what's being discussed, Madam Moderator, do you understand that to be the prospect of conducting an audit on smart track stations? And the design, I guess the design work that the city went through?
So through the speaker, that's my understanding.
Looking from the outside in a very plain way, I recall that council asked for certain things to be done. Could you tell us what type of work that the Auditor General's office could do on a subject such as this? Like if I recall, the Auditor General has told us before that you don't evaluate council decisions, you evaluate the work that is executed by the public service. Is that correct?
Through the speaker, yes.
So you would have to set aside the council's decision and you'd have to go look to see if the public service delivered the work in an efficient manner, got good value for the money that they spent, etc.
That's correct.
And you'd have to weigh that again. You'd have to take into account council decisions that have sent them off to go do that work and whether or not that work was actually built.
Yes.
Okay. I think I understand it. I appreciate it. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Mantis.
Madam Speaker, just to continue on Councillor Holiday's questioning. If we all remember correctly, the reason why the smart track stations were not built was because of the cost, the increases, that then the city was not able to meet the obligations that the provincial government was asking us. So is it actually the cost that we would be looking at, or the work that was conducted by the civil service? Because you could do the work and do it efficiently and that meets all standards, but if at the end of the day there isn't the funds to be able to continue with the project will stop. Does that then warrant an audit?
So through the speaker, that's what I'm struggling with in terms of seeing the value for an audit here.
Okay.
Okay, do we have speakers on this? Councillor Holiday? No? You don't want to speak? No? Councillor Myers, do you want to speak? Okay, if you can just put your name up there, please. Councillor Myers, did you submit in a motion? Councillor Perks.
Yes, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. Councillor Myers does have a motion. We had a bit of a conversation about it when he was trying to decide whether or not we should go in camera. It's largely about a committee recommendation to ask to look into Smart Track, which is, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars in public money, and requesting that it move up so that it's in the 26 work plan. And it's just a request. We don't direct the auditor in terms of what the auditor does. But I think it's important that we are right now, you know, every 6 months debating some change in GO stations and how the money is spent. And I want to see where the City of Toronto portion has gone and whether we've got value for money for that investment. We can request that of the auditor. Councillor Myers, I think, is quite wise to move a motion to do that. And when he's had time to get the clerks to support it, to draft his motion, then he'll move it. You have to ask him when he moves his motion. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Councillor Bravo to speak.
I want to thank Councillor Myers for the motion that he's bringing forward. As you can see, you know, I'm really struggling with how the interests of the City of Toronto were enmeshed into a provincial transit plan. And now it's difficult to disentangle and understand who's driving, in whose interests, and where the value for money is. For my case, I've got Eglinton is LRT, Old Weston Road and St. Clair, Lansdowne and Bloor, Dufferin and Queen. And as Councillor Morley, Deputy Mayor Morley spoke to, rezoning is happening. Development applications are being put in around these stations. You know, the buildings are coming up on the understanding that we're going to have this transit infrastructure, but look at how uncertain it is. 1 week it's go, next week it's up. Where's the fare integration? And essentially, what happened to the capital needs of the city, not just TTC, but road work? Where did they get tied in? And let's not ignore the necessary lesson here that we need expertise, long-term planning, and not short-term campaign promises to build out a transit environment, ecosystem, and service that really shows the public value for money. And remember that property taxes are very, very few and scarce, and we have already so many responsibilities added onto the property tax in Ontario. We have, you know, in other provinces, it's the provincial government that takes care of the need for shelter, attend to homelessness, takes care of social housing, makes those transitions for the most vulnerable people, and the list goes on and on and on. Why would we take on a provincial transit expansion plan just to slap Smart Track on it? Do we need to keep talking? Is the motion ready? Motion ready. Amazing.
The motion ready?
Yeah.
Okay, just give us a sec. Thank you.
I was filibuster out.
Councillor Myers.
Thank you, Speaker. The motion is just very simple. City Council requests the Auditor General to consider auditing Smart Track in the 2026 work plan. This is consistent with another motion that we had passed at the Audit Committee, asking that the Auditor General come back to the February 2026 Audit Committee with a review of whether or not the Smart Track plan should be audited, and this is just a sort of a further direction.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Myers, hold on. So Councillor Myers, it's part of the recommendation at the committee is part 2 on what you're
Yes.
moving. So you don't need to move it again.
No, so this is just further direction. So what part 2 is saying, just come back, and this is actually saying we'd actually like it done in 2026.
Okay, so Councillor Myers, you can continue speaking, and we're going to revise your motion to amend number 2.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fair. So,
Go ahead.
thank you. So I think just based on the questioning, I think there's a lot of questions, genuine questions about how this program came about, how money was spent, and how decisions were made, and we still don't have a clear answer. It's almost like we spent almost $1 billion and nobody can explain how we got here, which I find incredible. And as TTC chair, I have to say, while we were spending money on Smart Track, we were neglecting the TTC, which is now in the state that it is, because this is where our money was going. So I think these are legitimate questions that taxpayers, that our customers have in terms of why was this program prioritized the way it was? Why did we spend money building a provincial provincial transit expansion plan? And how did staff make these recommendations? And did the staff ever put up sort of warning signs as to whether or not this plan actually made sense? You know, Councillor Mantis and I both have something in common with Smart Track. We both lost Finch Kennedy. Finch Kennedy was fully designed, but there was no money to pay for it. So how did that get so far that this program got so far that nobody said, hey, why are we designing something that we don't actually have the money to build? Did staff ever put up a red alarm and say, no, this is not a good idea? Did anyone? I know councillors did. So I think it's important that we get to the bottom of what actually happened, how these decisions were made, how much money was actually spent, where does the province end, where does the city end? And I think it's just a matter of like making sure that this doesn't happen again, because again, this same department is responsible for delivering Eglinton East LRT, which runs through, I think, 5 of the 6 Scarborough wards at a cost of $4.65 billion. It's also responsible for delivering Waterfront East LRT, which costs $2.6 billion, and that will be obviously have massive ramifications for the waterfront redevelopment. So that's all my motion seeks to do.
Okay, we do have questions for you.
Thank you.
Councillor Mantis, 3 minutes clarification of the motion.
So through you, Madam Chair, Councillor Myers, what's the reasoning behind, are we speeding up the work that the Auditor General is going to be doing, or are we just getting a report back for the cost?
We can't speed up. This is not to direct the Auditor General.
Okay.
This is just to request the Auditor General include this in their 2026 work plan. That's it.
But when was this originally supposed to be coming to council?
She is coming back to the Audit Committee in February,
Okay.
with a 2026 work plan.
Okay.
So we already passed that at the Audit Committee. This is simply further direction saying we would like this included in the 2026 work plan. She is, of course, free to disregard that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Councillor Holliday, 3 minutes clarification of the motion.
Yes, Councillor Myers, this is, your motion is directing, I'm assuming to replace the committee recommendation number 2, but it's directing
It's to complement it.
Okay, we'll see how that rolls out. You're aware, though, that the Auditor General can't bring something forward after July of next year. So the report ends up coming probably sometime in 2027.
Okay.
Do you believe that there is a concern with the way that the public service executed on the directions that were provided by council? Is that where you're going with this, or are you questioning the public policy on it?
My question really is, how did we get here? Because I wasn't here, but I'm now sort of in the position where I'm sort of seeing the fallout in that money was, I'm assuming, redirected from the TTC to pay for this. I don't know where it came from, but I'm assuming a lot of that would have otherwise been spent on TTC state of good repair.
So
Although a lot of that, regardless of what I think of the program, a significant amount of that money, and I can't disclose the figure publicly, was spent designing stations, as you know, I just spoke with Councillor Mantis, that we didn't actually have the money to build. So how did we get to that point where someone gets to 100% design on a station before realizing, hey, we don't actually have the money to build this?
So you appreciate the gravity that if you add something to the list and the auditor accepts it, something else drops off. I just want to be clear on where it is you want to go with this and the utility of it. But I didn't hear back that you had concerns over the public service's execution on the policy.
Well, the public service, when they were here, they said this was their recommendation.
Okay.
That was their recommendation. So I want to know, how could it be your recommendation to design something to 100% when you don't have the money to build it?
Is there another way to do this with a report or a briefing note from the public service rather than putting it on the auditor's shoulders? I want to be sure on this.
Yep.
Just because of the implication, right? It all comes at a cost.
That's fair. I don't know other means to do that, where we would get sort of an independent audit of this program.
Okay.
I don't know. And that's a totally fair question, but I just don't know another means of getting those answers.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Perruzza, 3 minutes clarification of the motion.
Yeah, Speaker. I'm somewhat perplexed. I'm confused about what the objective is here. I mean, Smart Track came back to this council. I don't know, like we must have had like 20 votes on it over the years, right? And I don't think it's the Auditor General that, I mean, value for money and all the rest of it. Sure.
Do you have a question of the motion?
Yeah, the question of the motion is really, I think what you're looking for is you should sit down with Paul Ainsley, who supported it all along, and say, hey, Paul, why'd you support that for?
Councillor Perruzza, your question.
Or with Perruzza. Or with me, I was here. I voted against it.
Councillor, ask your question.
Paula Fletcher, she was here.
Are you speaking, or do you have a question for me?
That's my question. Why aren't you asking us those questions?
Why don't you speak in the mic and look at me?
Why are you asking the question of the auditor? Why aren't you asking the question of those of us? I don't know, Councillor Thompson, for example. I don't know. I don't want to tell you exactly.
Okay, Councillor Perruzza, please, it's 25 to 8. We have to finish this item before 8 o'clock.
That's it.
Okay, that's it? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Why aren't you asking that?
I think 8, wasn't it? I don't know.
It's not a question of the motion.
Councillor Morris, do you have a clarification?
Okay.
It's okay? All right.
Oh, gosh.
Councillor Perks, you want to speak?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I did already.
Councillor Bravo spoke. Councillor Mantis, you spoke? Yeah? Okay. Councillor Holiday. Councillor Holiday, go ahead.
Thank you, Speaker, and we'll see how the amendment plays out against the recommendation from the Audit Committee. But I just want to provide caution to Council about the gravity of adding work to the Auditor General's work plan. And I have some concerns with the lack of clarity in what to examine. So I put it to the member of council that's proposing this, did you have a problem with how the public service executed on the instructions, or was it the instructions that you were worried about? I'm not sure I got a clear answer on that. So part of me understands that people would like to see a timeline and an unpacking of all of the complexity of Smart Track, and I agree there's a lot of money spent. I guess the caution with this approach is that the Auditor General can look at it in earnest and say, hey, look, the risks don't fit the matrix that I have, and she may not do this work at all, ever. I wonder, though, if there might be another way to do this. And that could be through the city manager, that could be through internal audit, that could be an outside view, just like the winter services review. All of those are different ways to get at the problem and the question that council has. So I don't know, I just regret how these things come together on the floor, and sometimes there's better ways to do it. I just not quite sure that we have an understanding of the question or the problem that we're trying to solve just yet. But I appreciate how much money is at stake, and I appreciate the questions that the councillor has raised about the program and how we got to where we are today. Thank you.
Okay. On the motion by Councillor Myers? Yes. We're going to put it on the screen because it has been modified. Okay, thank you. Oh. Councillor Fletcher, did you just call me? Oh, I thought you said, oh, Lord. Oh. Okay, there it is on the screen. On favor, recorded vote. Now, February 12th is not a good day. I've got hundreds in my ward.
Councillor Cheng, thank you. Councillor Fletcher, please.
Councillor Mantis, please.
Councillor Fletcher, how do you vote, please? In favor, thank you. Motion one. Motion one carries. A vote of 16-3.
On the item as amended, on favor, carried. Okay, we're done with the audit. The next item on the agenda is EC 24.2. Mayor Chow, you held the item down? Mayor Chow? The expansion of the Association of Community Centers and New Development Projects. EC 24.2, you held the item down? Okay. Did you have questions?
No, I do not.
Okay, so would you like to release it?
Sure. There might be other people that want to speak, though.
Yeah, does anybody else want to speak on it?
I do, Madam Speaker. My name's on the list.
Okay, it's not on my list, though. Okay, it's not on mine. Councillor Cheng, how come I don't have anything on my screen? I have Councillor Cheng, but I don't have Councillor Sachs. Councillor Cheng, questions?
Yeah. Thank you. I'm very excited because Willowdale's on the cusp of getting an AOC approved. And my question is, when we tie a new AOC to a new development, how much control do we have in terms of timeline of implementation?
Through the chair, the timelines will depend on the overall facilities plan and the negotiations with the developer in that proposal.
So as we develop a plan to approve more AOCs that are in conjunction with development, does it mean in some ways that we are tied to the market because developments don't necessarily build themselves unless the market conditions are favorable?
Through the chair, for any developments with developers, that is true. We'll be tied to their timelines, but we're also willing to explore, and as part of the framework outline, exploring city properties and unused properties.
So those are things that we can control. And in terms of the expansion of AOCs, what parts of the city are lacking AOCs right now?
Through the chair, AOCs are predominantly in the downtown core. There is an AOC in North York. We're hoping to expand the AOCs into all areas of the city, but there is currently a gap in service in terms of Etobicoke and Scarborough.
There are many people in the city who don't know what an AOC is. It's kind of a strange name. How does an AOC differ from a community center? How can we explain that easily, especially in neighborhoods that have never had one before?
So through an AOC, through the chair, an AOC is a community organization that is part of the city. It provides services to local residents. It's resident-informed, resident-driven. It has a separate board of management. And AOCs have been successful in providing close to 1,200 inclusive programs to residents in 25 different languages, serving close to 235,000 unique individuals across our city. And one successful and really important element of AOCs is that they are supported by over 3,500 dedicated volunteers and 98 community members.
So they really become hubs in the neighborhoods in which they are established. And in the past, has there been a facilities master plan for AOCs?
Through the chair, no.
So this plan brings forth an opportunity to explore where they can be co-located, where there can be satellites, as well as where new ones can be established. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And will population growth and demographics and inequity play a role in how we decide where these new locations might be situated?
That is correct. That is one of the considerations we would have as part of the place-based assessment criteria.
And what are the challenges in terms of funding in order to be able to establish these new AOCs?
So we will look at all funding opportunities, including looking at the development opportunities, but also looking at the city considerations, but also looking at external partners to be able to support any expansion of new AOCs.
Right, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Councillor Shan, questions?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Speaker. I have a ward in Scarborough that spans right from Steeles down all the way to Lake, and I have two examples of places that could potentially use this. I want to ask through you, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, to the staff. One of the community centers was recently opened, and it's in an area where community engagement, community development model would work very well because there is definitely a lot of capacity building work that we could do. So would that be something that would be part of a consideration instead of just development-based models?
Yes, so through the chair, would definitely be part of the considerations as we hope to expand the number of AOCs. We are always open to finding promising locations across our city.
So that's in one part of my ward. When go closer to the lakeside, there is a recreation center that could use more programming, and it is one of the city-owned spaces that is seeing quite a bit of decline in programming, and so there may not be as much development in that area as opposed to looking at specialization. Like I know 519 specializes in certain type of work, but some of the other ones specialize in neighborhood work. So would that be possible to look at underutilized facilities to see if they could be revitalized through this model?
Speaker, good evening. Absolutely, Councillor. We can certainly explore that. We can also work with partners and agencies locally to see how we can better boost the programming opportunities. Thank you.
So my final question is that we identified Scarborough as a area that could potentially benefit from this model. What would be a structural way in which staff are thinking that this planning would be taken to Scarborough councillors or Scarborough Community Council and so on, instead of having it as a broader discussion, ongoing discussion?
So through the chair, we'll be exploring sites individually. All sites will be explored with the local councillor and brought forward with the local councillor.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Sachs to speak.
Thank you, Madam
She's
Speaker.
on the screen.
I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I have a motion. I've discussed this with the Chief Financial Officer and with the programming staff. The Cecil Community Center is a small center in a very low-income area of downtown, and it's the only facility of its kind, since we don't have a proper community center anywhere in the ward. And it hasn't had, although the report says that the city funds core administrative staff, in fact, the Cecil Center only receives a little over $6,000 from the city and hasn't had an increase in many, many years, was refused an increase in 2015 and simply cannot continue to operate all of the essential services it has without an increase. So having discussed options with staff on a number of occasions, and given the timing in the year, this is a request to the mayor to consider the base operating budget and make it more comparable to the other AOCs. This is, as I say, a community center that gets less than a fifth of the base funding of the least supported other AOC in the city, and it's simply not sustainable. So that's what it is. I understand there is a tremendous value in the AOC framework. And in fact, there have been a number of problems at the Cecil Center because of the lack of a framework. And frankly, the lack of attention by the city and by city staff to the real needs of the AOCs, the enormous public services that they provide in inadequate spaces with almost no money, but they do need some support. So that's the reason for the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Moyes, you have a question? Oh. Point of order, Councillor Bravo.
I'd like to understand whether this is in order, this motion. I understand the desire of Councillor Sachs to bring her AOC forward, but this is about expansion and not about increasing budgets for individual AOCs. That's not before us.
Well, with due respect, Councillor Bravo, the
No,
report...
okay. No, hold on, Councillor Sachs. Okay, Councillor Bravo, I'll look at the motion and then I'll rule on it, okay? Thanks. All right. Councillor Moyes, you don't need to ask a question, right? Oh, you do? Okay, because I might rule that motion.
Yeah, a question
Okay.
for the mover. I mean, we are in the midst of the 2026 budget, and I'm not quite sure why this is outside of the budget itself.
Well, this is a
It's an
request...
I understand that, but again, this is an existing AOC, and this is a request to add to their budget. Anyways, I will leave it.
Who are you asking the question to? Okay.
I'll let it be. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, let me answer if I can. The title talks about expansion, but if you read the report, there's a lot of emphasis on modernizing and updating the operation of the existing AOCs. And so I have discussed this with the clerk and with the CFO and with staff as to what is the appropriate venue in order to bring this request forward, since the needs of the Cecil Community Center have been so consistently overlooked for so many years. And I understood that it could properly be brought today in this way. I'm happy to you know, if this is ruled out of order, I'm happy to bring a member's motion for it, but I did discuss it specifically with the CFO. What is the appropriate process?
Okay. Oh. Councillor Fletcher, you have a question to the mover?
No, just quickly, I do understand that the Cecil Community Center has a special Cecil events operation where they actually do bring in quite a bit of money for the hall rental. Is that something that's in their budget, base budget, Councillor Sachs? Or I guess we could look at that when this gets looked at, correct?
Well, like all AOCs, the Cecil Center
this
has
is
an
special.
obligation to raise some of its own
No.
funds, and they do, but they can't survive without the base funding that everybody else gets.
Well, I think we can look at everything at the budget. Thanks.
Thank you.
This is
That's right. It's a budget.
right, but this is how I get it into the budget.
Okay, Councillor Sachs,
consideration.
thank you. Thank you. Councillor Cheng to speak.
Yes, I have a motion.
Okay.
This is to direct Executive Director of Social Development, the Executive Director of Corporate Real Estate and Parks and Recreation to consult with TDSB, TCDSB, and examine the feasibility of establishing and resourcing the operations of AOC Board of Managements in temporary leased locations, such as surplus city-owned facilities, recreation centers, or school property, once the delivery of a dedicated permanent facility has been confirmed. And this is important because as we seek to expand our portfolio, which is so important, and when we have to, unfortunately, tie it to development, which in some cases we do, we then have to wait. And that wait is difficult because we know that the need is immediate. Communities are already growing. A lot of infrastructure is already lacking. So what this motion helps us achieve is to see if we can stand up some capacity in the gap, because in my neighborhood, our potential future AOC could take 10 to 15 years before it actually gets built. And instead of just waiting, we could fund a board of management to start operating some programs and services out of existing facilities, the local school, which does exist, and help serve communities that currently do not have access to services and community space. So I look forward to exploring how this can be feasible, and I think it will be really important, especially as we look to partner with developers who often cannot give us a confirmation of timeline. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher to speak.
Thank you. I do remember making this motion to look at this model that we have and did have in the old city of Toronto. Are there places around the city where it would make sense to have that? And jumping on board was Councillor Cole, who's not here, to look at the new Lawrence Heights Community Center and what an AOC would do there, in particular because the staff doesn't change very often there. It's more of a community-based model, and how to marry up the two things, one being an actual rec center with yoga and all the different things that happen, and then a community-based model with an AOC. And I think, Councillor Cole, that it's going along very well, and you've stewarded that very nicely with our staff, and they're finding a way to work together on two models, one that has a board of management and the other that is managed directly by the city. So I just wanted to congratulate you on that, and I think we're very excited to see how that works out. This is also, Councillor Cheng, just to remind you that both school boards are under supervision. They are completely run by the province, including all their lands are under the control of the province. So I have an AOC that's in a school renting it, and that actually is becoming a problem. But I just want to say about this, I know somebody said, why aren't they everywhere else? Again, just like the priority centers or the free centers, that was a old City of Toronto initiative. And actually, in amalgamation, everybody got asked, would you like a free center? And nobody wanted one. They didn't want a priority center where you didn't have to pay. Now, 20-some years later, we're coming around to say, where should those centers be, neighborhood improvement areas, Where do kids need to go without the welcome policy? How can we do that? What does that look like? And I'm very pleased that there's an embracing of this model. And I'm very pleased there's an embracing of this AOC model. And I don't want to change the name and I don't want to fool around. I just want to see what and how we can move this through all of the goalposts. And the first goalpost is the Lawrence Heights Community Center and Family Center. I don't know the full name, but that's really where the proof is in the pudding. And I do appreciate the fact, Councillor Ching, that you have some commitments, but they're not tomorrow commitments, they're down the road commitments. And how do we bake those things into longer term? They are an interesting model. The staffing, why I do support that, is because the staffing doesn't change. With a rec program, you have many different folks that come and go from the rec center. They deliver great programs, but their notion is not to build the community. It is to deliver recreation programs. So how do we marry up the two functions in one building? Because we don't want to deprive people of recreation, but we also want to make sure some neighborhoods, certain neighborhoods, have a focus on building the community, jobs for youth. If I look at Eastview Community Center, the executive director there grew up in Blake Boltby, Toronto Community Housing. He then went to college, he worked for Ernst & Young, he's running that center. That's a successful model in our goal of building community, building youth outreach. It's a little different than the model of recreation. Neither of them is wrong, but they're just different. So one's a different lens to build and support, particularly those communities that don't have access. They don't have access to regular programs, to moving ahead, to jobs. At Eastview, many of the people that work there, they live in Toronto Community Housing. They are growing in their life and in their world. So it's just a model where it's not, we'll just put that everywhere. It's very tailored. And that's why it's in Lawrence Heights. Lawrence Heights, we know what Lawrence Heights is. We know it's being redeveloped. And there's a community center there that is being funded. And we have a, what I'll call a hybrid model there. Some of them are standalone, others might be satellite, but let's be careful and pick our way through this to get the best examples, to get the best operational models, to have the great cooperation that we have between our two DCMs, between the staff in REC and in SDFA. And I just want to thank everybody for that tremendously high level of cooperation, because we're not doing this for ourselves, we're doing this for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cole to speak.
Yeah, no, listen, I want to congratulate really staff for all the work they've done in this. I know there's some councillors that have moved motions today about, we need more money for recreation. This is not about more money for your recreation center. This is about a reaffirmation that this AOC model is an excellent way of engaging community in their fully cooperatively run recreation center. And as Councillor Fletcher said, the Eastview, this is how I got started on it for Lawrence Heights. I visited the Eastview Center with her, and if you want to see the city at work, go to the Eastview Center and see how the city works. You're never going to find CP24 there. You're not going to find, the bloggers there. But there are so many incredible people that are at this center, at the AOC Center at Eastview. And as Councillor Fletcher said, there are people who have grown up, worked, they're part of the community, and they are fully vested in this center. It is like it's like a town, a village, with a food bank, with the recreation programs, music programs, students, seniors. It's Cooking, oh yeah, they cook some nice pea soup there I had. Yeah, that's right, I remember the pea soup. But anyways, this is what it is. So, and generally this has been in the city of Toronto, as Councillor Fletcher said. Now, this is the first time it's moving out of the city and it's going into North York at Lawrence Heights. And for those of you who, I know we talked about different communities in need and equity and everything, but I am honored to represent the largest public housing center in Canada in Lawrence Heights. None of you have something like I have, okay? The largest community housing project in Canada. And the people there have gone through challenges, but one of the things they really dig into is their community facilities. They find that as something they can own and be invested in. And that's why the AOC model for Lawrence Heights is a perfect fit. It's not just where they sit and say, well, city staff has to do this, and there's not enough money for this. It's where the neighbors, the community, the parents, the grandparents, the elders, the kids all feel they own the place. It's very unique. As I said, you're not going to see CP24 there because it's something that really reflects the best of Toronto. You know, we're housing people, we're nourishing people, we're allowing them to be healthier, recreation programs. So that's why I'm so thrilled that AOC is coming to Lawrence Heights, and as part of our revitalization program of building a new shining hill there in Lawrence Heights with the community center, and we're doing the we're building places for the people to live with the three-phase project. With the first phase is complete. So it's not just a recreation center. It's not something where we need more money in the budget for. It's the creation of an entity that is living, breathing, and it is, as I said, the best of what we have in Toronto in terms of people, our staff, and the ability for people to have ownership of their own lives 24/7, whether it's cooking, exercising, arguing, debating, learning, teaching. It's all happening there with ownership and direction by the people who live there. So I just want to thank staff for all the work they've done for this.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going, before we go to the next speaker, I was asked to rule on Councillor Sachs's motion, and I'm sorry, Councillor Sachs, but I have to rule this motion out of order because the item concerns the future expansion of AOC model, and your motion is about the budget for an existing AOC. So I'm at the opinion that Councillor Sachs' motion goes beyond the narrow topic of the item, so I'm ruling it out of order. I apologize, Councillor Sachs. Deputy Mayor Malik.
Thank you very much. I am also excited to see this item move forward. I'm very proud to be the local councillor for two of our largest AOCs in the city, Scadencourt Community Centre and the Waterfront Neighbourhood Centre as well. And I know some of my colleagues in the exploration and the expansion of the AOCs have visited those sites as well and seen firsthand how incredible they are, the incredible teams there, the incredible boards who help move them forward and make sure that there's good governance, but especially the communities who make them so alive and so connected to the neighborhoods that they're in, and that demonstrate that commitment to the local community that so many of my colleagues have mentioned. They are some of the strongest champions for the things that we care most deeply about in our communities, addressing food insecurity, being on the front lines of making sure that everyone in the neighborhood is being housed, taken care of. One of the most striking things about visiting our AOCs, whether it's going to Scadencourt, where there's a TDSB alternative school that shares the space, celebrating a holiday, being a part of food distribution, or the incredible entrepreneurship that is there. I'm sure many of you have passed Market 707 on Bathurst and seen a showcase of our local talent, of cuisine from all across the globe, and of folks taking that first step into, you know, starting a business themselves right in their neighborhood and in their community. But one of the most important aspects of our AOCs is the unique way that they demonstrate and reflect the intergenerational nature of so many of our neighborhoods. They represent those stories that, of the neighborhoods that have shaped them, but also in inviting that interaction between younger people and older people, young professionals and folks who have been in the neighborhood and maybe have returned, or folks who are looking to see what that next opportunity is. It is a place of opportunity. It is a start, but it's also a place to be able to, you know, age and to call that space your home. I want to also give a shout out to our Waterfront Neighborhood Center that hosts so many incredible community events, and that's a really unique AOC in the way that it is connected to a local school, as well as the park and recreation space, as well as being close to so many community services. And that has been a site for so many of our important community discussions and our meetings. And I'm so excited for more neighborhoods in our city to be able to experience the benefit of an AOC, and for more residents to be able to bring their care, their commitment, and their passion for making their city and their neighborhood a better place through the structure that the AOC provides.
Thank you. Councillor Bravo to speak.
I'm very pleased that we're all celebrating the good news of this report. This is about building on a model that was developed in the old city of Toronto, and I'll remind everyone that half of my ward was in the old city of York. I don't have an AOC, but I can say that this is a strategy for ensuring that social development goals that the city has, commitments that the city's already made, are advanced through the offering of recreation and maximizing all of the things that can take place in these locations. What does social development goals mean? Well, it's closing the gap to employment, closing the gap to opportunity, developing leadership, and not looking at a community for all that it doesn't have structurally and systemically, but for all of the assets that can help to ensure that voice comes forward, that it's solutions driven, that people are being connected to jobs, that people are being trained. And the example that Councillor Fletcher gave of people ascending in their leadership, walking in, you know, and going to a reading club and ending up being the executive director, that's the kind of transition that we want to see. Councillor Sachs mentioned the modernization piece, and I think it's important to note that that is about a governance review, making sure that we're that the AOCs, that the boards are constituted in a way that are in line with those social development goals. Just really want to thank staff for all the hard work and for Deputy Mayor Cole for his enthusiasm in Lawrence Heights. We have a real opportunity to solve a lot of social issues by making sure that every dollar that we spend is doubling up and producing better outcomes for communities that deserve everything that the rest of the city has. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we'll put the motion on the screen. Motion by Councillor Cheng. It's on the screen. On favor, opposed if any, carried. Item is amended. On favor, opposed if any, carried. Thank you. Councillor Myers, your item is next. EC 24.8, creating community opportunities through the 4610 Finch Avenue. Councillor Myers, do you have questions?
No, I just wanted to speak on the item.
You just want to say something?
I just want to speak, yeah.
Okay, well, let me ask about other members of council. Do you have any questions? No? Okay, Councillor Myers to speak.
My mic's not, oh, is it? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Speaker. Scarborough North is home to one of the most diverse populations in Toronto, if not all of Canada. Our seniors are no different. We know that cultural connection, sensitivity, and understanding is not just an add-on for caring for seniors, but is foundational to providing the type of care our loved ones need. That's why I've worked so hard to ensure that the new 378-bed long-term care home at 4610 Finch Avenue East is designed with culturally appropriate care at its core. Care that reflects the languages, foods, faiths, and traditions of the Black, Caribbean, and African diaspora that proudly calls Scarborough North home. This new city-run long-term care home will be open to everyone, but will have floors dedicated to serving Black, Caribbean, and African seniors, which represent approximately 10% of the population of Scarborough North, the highest in all the wards of Toronto. This motion directs staff to co-design the home with partners like Taibu Community Health Centre, a community health center mandated to serve the Black community, local caregivers, and residents themselves, so the model of care grows from the community up. It also applies the city's community benefits framework, guaranteeing that this project will create good-paying jobs for residents, skills training, procurement opportunities for local businesses, and neighborhood improvements in nearby Brimley Forest. The new long-term care home will join other senior care facilities in my ward providing culturally specific care, such as Yihong, which serves the Chinese community but also has floors dedicated to serving South Asian and Japanese seniors, Mengsheng, which also serves Chinese seniors, and St. Peter and Paul Retirement Home, where 50% of the residents are of Ukrainian heritage. And because representation matters, I've started a petition to name this new home after Bernice Redmond, Canada's first Black public health nurse and a pioneer who opened the door for future generations in healthcare. As long-term care home workers, be they personal support workers, nurses, cleaners, cooks, or administrative staff, are disproportionately racialized women, this naming is especially meaningful. Bernice's courage and service embody the values this home stands for: dignity, compassion, and community. Her brother, Herb Carnegie, one of the earliest Black hockey players and a founder of the Future Aces program, has a community arena named after him on Finch Avenue West, meaning these trailblazing siblings will both have buildings named after them on the same street in recognition of their contributions to our city and our country. This is what Scarborough leadership looks like: building homes that care for people, honoring those who paved the way, and creating opportunities for the next generation. I would like to personally thank Nicole Welch and Lisa Barrasso for their instrumental work in making this groundbreaking project happen, and Bernice's son, Nate, who gave us permission to launch our petition to name 4610 Finch Avenue East after his mom. Thank you. And with that, I'd like a recorded vote, please.
Cute. Okay, on the item, recorded vote. This is EC 24.8.
Councillor Fletcher, please. The item is adopted unanimously. 20 in favor.
Thank you. Our next item was government management for 20 Humberview Crescent expropriation, but Councillor Crisanti is not here, so we'll have to hold it down to tomorrow. He held it. He didn't think, yeah, but he didn't think we would get to it tonight, so. Yeah, I know. I have to respect my colleagues. Unlike others. No, okay. Our next item, which is GG 2516, Councillor Peruzza, you held the item down. Designation of the properties used by Toronto Shelter and Support Services. Councillor Peruzza, are you around? Councillor Peruzza. Is this computer or phone still on his desk? Councillor Peruzza, are you online? Councillor Peruzza, are you online? Okay, so Councillor Ainsley, so if you deal with him in the morning. Okay, are you going to move it? Okay, pardon? Oh. We'll hold it. Next item is infrastructure and environment, IE 25.1. Councillor Chang, you held the item down. Do you have questions? Okay, Councillor Chang. Questions?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Recently, or in March, a few of my colleagues and I went to Taiwan, and we met with the founder and chairman of the Circular Taiwan Network, Charles Huang. And he shared that in Taiwan, they actually have some innovations that are happening, including a partnership with IKEA, and they've established a furniture rental model. So instead of buying furniture that often breaks down and has to be replaced, it's a furniture as a service model, which allows that furniture to be replaced as needed, but it incentivizes the manufacturer to do good quality furniture that can last longer and less resource extraction. He also described another business model where it was cool air as a service as opposed to buying air conditioners, and how that can incentivize companies to create things that last longer, air conditioning units, because they're providing a service, not the machine. And so I'm just wondering, you know, in light of the things that some of us learned in Taiwan about what's happening in Taiwan, what are things that are happening in Toronto that maybe a lot of people don't know about in terms of innovations for circular economy? And how could we as a city, for example, use a furniture as a service model in furnishing our city offices?
So to the chair, the circular economy strategy really does support any and all of those activities. It is a foundational strategy that would enable any of those activities and support businesses that are interested in participating in the circular economy in realizing those types of activities. Some examples we have in Toronto are around food innovation and circular food innovation, really around reducing takeaway waste and plastics. And another thing that we've been doing a lot of is around deconstruction. So when we take down buildings, as opposed to just creating more waste for the landfill, actually taking the buildings apart and then using those pieces, whether it's the bricks, the concrete, other types of material, for other buildings. So really, we've had a number of pilots over the last year where we're actually working with people to deconstruct buildings and creating value out of those parts and then providing that back into the economy.
Thank you. So to move our city and not just internally, but externally, to a new economic model, it takes a lot of thrust to get liftoff because it is a very new idea. What do you see will be the opportunities and the challenges to help people wrap their minds around an entirely new economic model?
So to the chair, I think one of the opportunities is it really is an entirely new economic model. It's something that we've been doing for years and people have been practicing for years and happens around the world. It's really talking about this from a broader sense. So part of the opportunity is really going to be about communication, community engagement, and getting communities excited about those opportunities. Take something like repair and being able to repair appliances as opposed to just having to replace them every time something breaks. People will understand that and they'll see value. Some of the challenges is that it is so big and encompassing. It can mean anything and everything to everyone. Part of the work we're doing is to really make it tangible for folks with specific projects, specific activities that they can see, and then they can apply that either to their lives, their business models, or to then think of other ideas and other ways that they can promote a circular economy.
Thank you. Those of us who met with Mr. Charles Huang in Taiwan were very inspired by how passionate he is and what they've been able to achieve. Would there be an opportunity to facilitate intercontinental Zoom meeting where we could exchange ideas?
To the chair, I think we would love that. We've been engaging with jurisdictions around the world and developing this, and I think learning more and seeing how others do this would be great, especially as we embark kind of on the early days of this strategy.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Morley.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. Just to pull the thread a little bit from my colleague, Councillor Chen, I was one of the councillors privileged to join the trip and learn a lot, get very inspired about circular economy. I was grateful to come home and see us charting our own path forward in this regard. Can you share some of the key themes that were shared as part of this roadmap? Key themes, sorry.
Sorry. So I think some of the key themes that we have is really around reduction in resource consumption and use, so taking less, maintaining, taking care, and extending the value of the things we already have, supporting local businesses, job creation, and innovation, and then addressing affordability and strengthening communities and growing local economies. So it really is about affordability, about economies, and about waste reduction.
Why is this important work for us to be taking on as a municipality?
For a number of reasons. There's the financial reason. We spend as a municipality a lot of money every year on waste management. So the less we create, the better it is from a financial perspective. The second is from an environmental perspective. The less we consume, the more we reuse, the less environmental impact we're having both in the City of Toronto, but also in areas that are creating those products. And the third, I'd say, is kind of from that social economic opportunities. There's significant business opportunities here, and we identified, for example, through the economic action plan related to tariffs, a lot of opportunities related to the circular economy to address supply chain challenges by actually looking at what we have here and looking at our local economy.
That's great, and then actually leads to my next question, which is how does transitioning to a circular economy benefit our city's economic development? And how will the roadmap reinforce some of our support local initiatives and some benefits related to that?
So at a very high level, it keeps value within the city. So when resources are brought into the city, whether that's for construction or just goods and services, when we dispose of those, we lose value. Through a circular economy, we actually retain that value. The other is through those businesses that can grow around supporting and maintaining that value. And we've seen that already through the work we've been doing, for example, on circular foods, new businesses popping up, and a lot of opportunity then to support businesses. And last, as I said, through supply chains and not having to rely so much on other supply chains and others in the supply chain world, but actually being able to look at what we can do within the city and support that local economy.
Great. My last question is around, we know there's some
general themes and some projects that we're supporting through the initial phases of this roadmap. But can you speak to tangible metrics in terms of goals? Do we anticipate a future where we are able to more clearly track some of our tangible goals related to circular economy?
To the chair, we do, as part of the roadmap, we have established indicators for the first 3 years in kind of a high level. So we will be tracking what we are, kind of the key goals around that from a broad sense. Sorry, I'm just going to pull them up here. No. And so really that is around kind of industry engagement, resident engagement. We're tracking business growth, though that'll be something that's very important to see how businesses are growing, being supporting. Benefits to city operations, so we can track a lot internally from a financial perspective. How this is rolling out across neighborhoods, we're looking to provide a roadmap that touches all neighborhoods in Toronto. It's not specific to one area, so we'll be tracking kind of how we're doing that in an equitable fashion. And lastly, kind of how we're collaborating with other levels of government. So we've got some broad indicators, and then we'll be developing very specific KPIs for this as part of our year one roadmap implementation.
Great, and sorry, one more question. Which divisions within the city are sort of involved or going to be working along with your division, climate and environment, towards this circular economy plan?
So I won't try to list them all. My environment, climate, forestry, solid waste management, we're the co-leads on this. I believe we have 16 other co-creating divisions who've been part of developing the roadmap across the city, so transportation service, economic development, it's all in there. And we're also, and as we identified in the supplementary report, also planning to engage with our agencies and corporations as we roll this out, so they can look at opportunities to build circularity into their operations, their procurement, et cetera. So it really is kind of across the city involvement.
Great, thank you. Okay. That's my time.
Thank you. Councillor Chang to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the team for this roadmap and this important work. And I'm sorry to keep you here till this time, but I really wanted to draw attention to this because capitalism as we know it is not working. The endless extraction of resources upon which our economy is based is not working for our children. I am concerned about the impacts on our world in the way that our economy is formatted right now. And this seed that we're planting through this roadmap, it's a way to shift how we look at how we interact with materials. So when we build a house, the materials that we build that house with can be extracted for reuse. It's captured in the value of the house. It's no longer just something that's disposed of at the end of life cycle. And I really appreciate this trip that some of us were able to go on, where we learned so much about the circular economy, because there are advocates around the world who are so passionate about shifting this. This is not an easy lift. We see our mighty team here from our city, but actually, what we are asking of corporations is to relook at how they report their financial sheets, their statements, because oftentimes those financial statements, they're catered to shareholders and they don't capture the resources and the climate impact that their revenue generation is causing to our environment. So we are planting this very important seed, and I look forward to what this roadmap is going to do as we shift our thinking. I have to admit, when I heard about selling cool air as a service versus buying an air conditioning unit, I didn't fully understand at first what was being explained to me, but then I said, yes, of course, because then you have job creation, because it's a service, so there's jobs in maintaining those air conditioning units, but it also means we're not building disposable appliances. Everyone says, back in the day, a refrigerator could last 30 years. I am so upset. I've had to replace my refrigerator 3 times in the last 6 years. It is ridiculous. I would rather pay for refrigeration as a service than buy new refrigerators every few years. So we have to shift our thinking, and that is going to be a lift to educate people to think about how they consume and how we can be more circular. So this is not just a report, it's a shift, and it's a shift that we're all going to be invited into across divisions and across our city. So let's get on board, let's support this roadmap, and let's imagine a city that is sustainable because we are fostering a circular economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Councillor Cheng, would you be willing to move the supplementary report? Okay, thanks. Okay, we'll put it on the screen. There it is. Okay. Councillor Morley to speak.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. I'll keep it brief. I just wanted to echo the sentiments from my colleague, Councillor Cheng, and really underscore the responsibilities that we have here in this chamber. Something that I read on the side of a school one time that stuck with me and I believe to be true is that we don't inherit this earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from the children that we're going to leave behind. And I think when we navigate our responsibilities around how we care for our planet, what type of economy we're supporting, who's included, who's counted, all of these are really big and important questions that we are seized with often in this council chamber. Similarly, was very inspired by, have long been concerned about the nature of our current linear economy because we live in a global world and everything has cycles in the world that we live in except the way we produce and consume. So we need to get a grip on all of this and we need to demonstrate some leadership as a municipal government because we do have so much work that goes on relating to whether it's climate, forestry, solid waste management, and the like. We continue to see headlines in the news about landfill crisis, and we don't have anywhere else to put all of this stuff. So we really need to be resilient as we are, be thoughtful, be innovative, and lead in these areas that matter most. We heard a little bit about the costs associated with things, and I think this is going to be the biggest challenge. And I'm not a accountant or a budget expert, but we know that there's a value and there's costs associated with everything, whether we're paying for it in this moment in dollars and cents, or whether our air is paying for it, our congestion, is paying for it, or otherwise. So I just really want to thank staff and acknowledge them for their incredible work on this. I was so overjoyed to join them for a celebration recognizing many local Toronto-based organizations and nonprofits that are leading the way as it relates to single-use plastics, as it relates to circular economy opportunities, and we need to continue to do this good work together. I'm also really clear that if we want to go far in this area, we've got to go together. So having the 16 divisions as well as the 3 lead divisions on this and all of our ABCs coming along the journey is going to be the way forward for us to be proud of the work we do here together and what we leave behind for the next generations. I'll leave it there. Thanks, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Cheng's moved the supplementary report. On favor? Opposed, if any, carried. Yeah, item is amended. On favor, carried. Okay, Councillor Fletcher, are you here? Councillor Fletcher? Okay, we'll go to the next one then. IE 25.3. Mayor Chow, you held it down. Basement flooding protection. Do we have questions to staff? Anybody? Is anybody listening to me? No? Okay, Mayor Chow, did you want to speak on this? No? So did you just want to release it?
Sure.
Okay, IE 25.3, Mayor Chow is releasing. All in favor? Carried. On the next one is PH 25.4,
Yes.
annual progress report of housing TO.
Yes, I think this is something we can do very quickly. I have a motion. Deputy Mayor Morley has a motion. Councillor Thompson has a motion. Councillor Holyday had some questions, but he's very graciously agreed just to vote no on certain sections. So if I can just move my motion, which I believe the clerks has.
Okay, okay, let's just put the, first of all, we'll put.
And my thanks to all my colleagues. A lot of you have really contributed to sorting this one out.
So Councillor Perks, there's your motion.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak?
Yeah, just very quickly, City Council requests City Manager and staff to continue intergovernmental funding discussions. And basically what the rest of it says is, in the meantime, don't make any changes, defer consideration of any changes to a variety of affordable housing programs, and you can see they're all listed there. So it's basically, we're in very sensitive discussions about trying to get more money out of the other governments. Let's keep those other programs listed there the same while those conversations are ongoing. That's my motion. If anyone has any questions, I can answer.
Are there any further speakers? Oh, Councillor Morley.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. I just have a motion. I've been working with staff and with, thanks to the chair as well, just expanding the eligibility, but not the pot, so there's no financial implications. It's on CMP if anybody wants to read it in detail, but I'm sure clerks will.
Do we have Councillor Morley's motion? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you.
Yes, Speaker, I rise to move my motion, and as it's already been stated, there's been lots of consultation that's taken place, and staff has assisted in drafting the motion, and it basically just reads as follows: that City Council direct the Executive Director, Housing Secretariat to consult with Black Canadian Housing Fund and other Black-led and Black-serving housing organizations in Toronto to improve the housing outcomes for Blacks and racialized residents as part of the implementation of the Housing Now TO 2020-2030 Action Plan.
Okay. All right, so I think that's it for speakers. Okay, so Councillor Holyday, do you want to put your name up if you want to speak? Point of order.
Yeah, just an easy point of order. I would just like to vote separately on 1A. I'd like an opportunity to record that vote.
On which one?
It's only on clause 1A.
1A,
Of
okay.
the committee recommendations.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll do the amendments first. By Councillor Perks, it's on the screen. On favor, opposed if any, carried. Okay, next motion. Councillor Morley, it's on the screen. On favor, opposed if any, carried. Councillor Thompson. Motion on the screen. On favor, opposed if any, carried. Okay, so we'll go down. Yeah, I like the part that Councillor Holyday wants to vote on separately. Okay, it's on the screen. So item number 1A, Councillor Holyday wants that a separate vote. Recorded vote.
Mayor Chow, please, your vote.
Councillor Candeville, if you're participating, please turn your camera on. Thank you.
Motion Part 1A of the item as amended carries. The vote is 18-1.
So on the item as amended, next, the balance of the item, yes. The balance of the item as amended, on favor, carried. Okay, so now we're at Etobicoke, York. Councillor Holiday, you held EY 26.7. Do you have questions to staff? Pardon?
We don't know if Create TO is here. This came up rather fast.
Well, because we're efficient.
Hey, I'm impressed, but to be fair to them, I think they expected it tomorrow. They are. Are they here?
They're
Great.
here.
So I'll ask a couple of questions then.
Can I have Create TO please come down? Okay, this is on 280 Wincott and 4820 Eglinton.
So I want to.
Please put your name on the screen, please.
Thank you. So Speaker, if I may proceed.
Okay, go ahead, ask your questions.
So the story of this particular site involves a deal with Create TO. Could you tell Council the origin of that deal? Where did it come from? Why did the city sell a property on what I think is a sole or single source to a developer?
This property was sold through the
Through the speaker, it's Oren Tamir from Development Review. In 2018, just to assist, there was a report that came to the Affordable Housing Committee speaking about the support for 72 new affordable rental homes at 250 Wincott Drive as part of the Open Door program.
What did that have to do with the sale of the land from Create TO, though? That was a Section 37 benefit.
the sale was a joint development with a neighboring landowner.
Correct.
So we were encouraged by planning to pursue a joint development.
You were encouraged by planning, and Create TO pursued it.
Correct.
Can you tell me if there was a clause at any point in time, or does it remain a clause or a contract that this developer cannot appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal?
I'm wondering if we can call in the chief legal officer from Create TO who was intended to be here.
Yes, and that's the thing, Speaker. I'm sorry that this has come up at this hour. It's very awkward to have to place these right now.
So are you saying that you don't have staff here to answer that?
No, the staff member who was intended to be here was not able to attend, but she's able to join by phone.
I'm happy to stand it down and get it sorted out for tomorrow, and I'll be quick with my questions and have it done, if that pleases the Speaker and Council. I want to be respectful of the staff's time as well and Council's.
Go remote?
Through the speaker, we've been told that they did need consent to appeal to the land tribunal, and Créatio did provide the consent.
Okay, Councillor Holiday? Oh, sorry. Okay, I put your time on hold. Okay, go ahead.
No, I appreciate it. Can you tell me if they still need Créatio's consent to appeal a decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal? In other words, are we going into a decision on this property without them having the ability to appeal to the OLT? Is that true or not?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Does the applicant still have to go to Créatio to get permission to appeal to the OLT on this property?
Yes.
Okay.
The consent was given, though, so that's how they proceeded.
And they proceeded to the OLT and they withdrew their appeal from the OLT, is that correct?
Yes.
So there'll be an upcoming decision, I think, from council, if council decides to make a decision. Do they still have to obtain the consent of Créatio to go to the OLT again?
They would be required to get consent from Créatio. It's the same condition, still applies.
One of the criticisms of the community to the government, and this is larger than the planning process, is that the city entered a single deal with a single landowner on a particular proposal in 2021, and that landowner has come back and they have upsized in a new proposal significantly, and we're talking from mid-rise to tall towers, properties on this site, development components of this site, that is commingled with the sale of the city land to the developer. What remedies do we have to gain additional money or consideration for the property that we sold them at a certain value? Can you reveal the value, maybe even? There's a basic question. That sale is done. We sold them a parcel of land on Eglinton. How much did we sell it for? If you can reveal it publicly. If you can't, that's fine.
I don't believe we can reveal that publicly.
Okay. Do you have an ability to capture more money if the developer gets more yield out of the site, more density, more units? Because they've come back now to council and asked for far more.
There are opportunities to secure greater benefits to the city.
So the city in and itself has a financial incentive if more yield is achieved on this site. Is that true or not true?
It could be interpreted that way, yes.
Okay. And finally to planning, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to talk to you about this before. The original report that was brought to council in 2021 gives consideration to a driveway today that would become a future private road. And part of the report said that there was an encumbrance on that road. Do I understand clearly that the encumbrance that was brought forward in the report turns out to be a couple of catch basins and a grit separator that...
Councillor Holiday, your time is up.
Yeah, I'll finish my question. That connects to the city's stormwater system. It's that simple. That was the encumbrance.
Yeah, through the speaker, that is correct. That's one of the encumbrances. Another would be that there would be parking under the private road.
Thank you. Councillor Perks, questions?
Yeah, Speaker, and I'm really sorry that I have to ask these questions. This item shouldn't even be in front of us, frankly. Just to be clear, there is a planning report due on this item at a future meeting of Etobicoke, York, and therefore Toronto City Council, yes?
Through the speaker, that's correct. The next community council.
And this wasn't generated because the planning department or one of the other branches of the public service felt the need to write a report, but rather the local councillor moved a motion to committee saying, write us an update. And that's how it got. Yes?
Through the speaker, correct.
And your recommendation was to receive that, community council is being kept up to date. That was your recommendation.
Correct.
Okay. Secondly, so much has been made of the fact that there was a property transfer in 2021 and there was an expectation about what would be developed there. How many times has planning law changed since 2021?
It's fair to say multiple times.
Multiple times, like, I think more than 6.
Probably close to that.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So the legal conditions on the site have changed since the original transfer and ownership took place.
Through the Speaker, the policies have changed to our avenues, for example. There's also draft PMTSAs that were adopted by Council. So yes, there have been other changes to the site.
Okay. Now, this notion that, and I don't know who, maybe the city solicitor, this notion that once we transfer ownership of property to someone else, that we, you know, and they decide to do something else with it, unless we specifically encumber a property saying you can only do this or you have to sell it back to us, which we didn't do in this case, a private property owner is free to change what they intend to do on it as long as they meet any conditions we attach, correct?
Through you, Madam Speaker, generally speaking, the ways that a municipality would limit what a private property owner could do with the property would be through the Planning Act or through any sort of a real estate transaction where something was put on title.
So if we didn't put something on title and they decide they can make even more money, we're not due any of that additional money, are we?
Well, I'm not
because we sold it.
Familiar with this particular matter, but I agree with you generally speaking, yes.
Right. Mr. Clark answered a question saying that, yes, there may be some community benefit associated with this, but when you say that, that's under the limitations of what the province allows in terms of community benefit. Like, we can't just go and get anything we want. We're limited by law in terms of what community benefits we can get. Is that correct?
Through the Speaker, that's correct.
And this council has debated many times whether the current community benefit arrangements with the province actually make us whole. And I remember, I'm going to get Mr. Conforti to answer this one. Do we actually get benefit compared to what we used to get, or have we lost benefit?
We lost benefit compared to the old Section 37 approach.
Okay, so when Mr. Clark says we get some benefit, we're actually net losers compared to where we were in 2021.
To the Speaker, yes, and by a considerable amount.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Councillor Holiday to speak.
Can I have a mic? Thank you. I'll move receipt. I'll thank staff for their patience and for the timing of this coming up and having to answer a bunch of awkward questions. Members, Councillor Perks is right. It is a bit unusual to have a preview report. But I can tell you that in my 11 years as a member of council, I have never seen a development file like this one. There are lawn signs in the community. There was a community consultation meeting that went so bad that the planner had to eject members of the public and actually shut the meeting down. And it was shocking. And the reason I brought this here is because there's so much more to the story than a simple rezoning application. That in itself is controversial. But this is the story of a land deal, of a redevelopment of a plaza, a land deal with the city, with a vision to do something better. The city could have gone their own way and developed the strip of land along Eglinton Avenue, close to the future subway stations. But they didn't. They did a land deal. And they ended up with a solution in 2021 that we voted on as a council. Fairly elegant solution with 3 really large buildings, the promise of a whole bunch of retail and the retention of the existing site. And that's actually the backdrop to the story, is what the community will do to access local retail so that we can have all of those things like a walkable and a livable community. There's a lot of doubt put onto that vision now because someone changed their mind. And the community are furious. They're furious with the city in particular because council entered a deal with this applicant. They worked with Creatio. Tons of energy went through Creatio to come up with a solution. And they've effectively taken that and thrown it away. The ink was barely dry on the application and they came back and refiled. So don't fool you, it's not coming back in 2025. That's after a couple of years of work on it. So I had to tell this part of the story because I won't be able to tell you all of that when we start to talk about the merits of the rezoning. But stay tuned for a very exciting conversation. I hope you look at the report and the information that planning worked really hard to bring us. But you have to see all of the context and all of the pieces of why this matters. This is so much more than a simple rezoning that has to come to council. And I hope you'll think of all of the elements, including public confidence in our government and in all of the processes, including the planning process. And I will be asking you to help me protect the viability, the retail component of the site. By the way, there was a grocery store that was promised somewhere along the way that disappeared. And so people are still upset about that. But people are worried about orderly development on this site and this being broken up into different parcels and evolved over time. So I'll explain that a lot better when we come back in the future to talk about the rezoning. But this had to come to you as part of the story, and I hope you take a peek at the report. You don't have to do it today, but I hope you'll do that in advance of the next discussion. So you might want to ask some really tough questions at that point in time, but thank you for everyone's patience on this.
Okay. Move receipt. All in favor? We could have done that in Etobicoke. All in favor? Carried. Okay. May I have a motion to introduce the confirmatory bill moved by Councillor Mantis? We'll put this motion on the screen. If you can please read it out.
That leave be granted to introduce bills to confirm to the point of the introduction of this motion the proceedings of City Council Meeting 34 on November 12, 2025.
Shall leave be granted to introduce these bills? All in favor? Show of hands. Opposed, if any, carried. Shall these bills be declared as bylaws and be passed subject to Section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006? All in favor? Show of hands. Opposed, if any, carried. We'll recess to 9:30 tomorrow morning.